I wake before the sun like I always do. Not because I'm eager for the day, just because sleep never lasts long anymore. The silence of morning is something I've come to rely on. No voice calling from the kitchen. No laughter spilling from the living room. Just stillness and the sound of the kettle beginning to hum. Asterisk, I dress deliberately, neatly. A charcoal wool blazer, a muted tie, shoes shined the night before. The routine is armor. I teach literature at a public high school, in a town where everyone knows everyone else, but no one really knows me. That's how I've kept it. That's how it needs to stay. Asterisk, the students call me Mr. Caldwell. Some, like me, I think, unfair. I listen. I don't demand more than I give. But I also don't give much of myself. I hand back essays with careful notes in the margins, remind them to be kind to one another, and leave the building when the final bell rings. No one knows that my partner of 16 years died in the spring. No one ever knew I had one. Asterisk, it was easier that way. Still is, most days. Asterisk, it was a Tuesday in late October when I first really noticed him. Dawson, 17, maybe 18. He sat in the third row, second from the window, always a little too alert. Most kids drag their feet through Hamlet, but not him. He read lines like he was listening to something beneath them. When the class ended, he lingered. Asterisk, Mr. Caldwell, he said. Do you ever get tired of pretending stories end where they're supposed to? Asterisk, I turned to look at him. His tone wasn't mocking. It was something else, something raw. I raised an eyebrow. You think stories don't end where they should? Asterisk, he shrugged. I think maybe they end where people stop paying attention. Asterisk, I didn't know what to say to that. It felt like he had peeled back something I'd forgotten was there. Asterisk, after that he started staying after class. Sometimes with questions about the material, but more often it was different. He asked what it meant when a character stopped speaking but kept watching. He wanted to know why some lines in poetry felt like secrets. Asterisk, he was quiet, but his silence had shape. It wasn't emptiness, it was intent. Asterisk, one afternoon, as the classroom emptied and he gathered his books, he looked up and said, Do you ever feel like you're invisible even when people look straight at you? Asterisk, I froze. Not because the question was strange, but because I'd asked it myself every day since Marcus died. Asterisk, sometimes, I said. But that usually says more about them than it does about you. Asterisk, he nodded like he already knew that, but needed to hear someone say it. Asterisk, I told myself not to think too much about it. He was a student, I was his teacher. The line was bright, and I had no interest in crossing it. But still, something shifted. Not because of anything he did, but because I'd forgotten what it felt like to be seen. Asterisk, I began to notice the way he stayed back when the hallway emptied, always walking alone. The way he paused before speaking in class, measuring every word. There was a loneliness in him I recognized. Not teenage angst, something quieter, something heavier. Asterisk, that weekend, I passed him at the grocery store. He was alone, staring blankly at rows of soup cans. He didn't see me. Asterisk, the next Monday, he left a book on my desk, a collection of essays by Baldwin. Inside was a folded note. Page 43 made me think of our conversation. Asterisk, I waited until the room was empty before opening it. The passage was about being told to live a life that isn't yours because it makes others more comfortable. It wasn't romantic, it wasn't even personal, but it landed like an echo. Asterisk, I didn't say anything about it in class. Neither did he. But when the bell rang and the students filed out, he looked back. Just once, a glance. Asterisk, and I realized I'd stopped dreading the start of each day. I also realized that wasn't safe. The quiet connection between us wasn't something I could name. It wasn't inappropriate. It wasn't anything really except real. And real things can be dangerous when you've spent your life behind glass. Asterisk, I didn't know what he wanted from me. Maybe he didn't know either. But something was unfolding, and I could feel the floor shifting under my feet. It started with coffee. Not an invitation, exactly. More of a question delivered in passing. Dawson waited after class, let the others go, then leaned on the edge of a desk and asked, Do you Ever go anywhere just to be where people are? Asterisk, I looked at him, unsure whether he meant it as small talk or something more. He shrugged, eyes low. There's this place near the bus stop. They do decent coffee. I just thought, maybe you go there too. Asterisk, I should have said no. Should have. Reminded him about boundaries. But instead I said, sometimes. That Friday, I went. It was a modest cafe on the edge of town. Dusty windows, mismatched chairs. A radio playing jazz too softly to recognize the tune. I found him in the corner, 2 mugs already on the table. He didn't say much when I sat. Just pushed one toward me and said, "It's not bad." Asterisk, we talked, but not about school. We talked about nothing, which became everything. Favorite lines from novels. How hard it is to explain silence to people who've never craved it. He mentioned his parents only once said they weren't home much. I nodded, understanding more in what he didn't say. Asterisk, there was no flirtation. No suggestions. Just the strange comfort of being in someone else's presence, and not needing to fill the space with noise. Asterisk, I should have felt uncomfortable. I didn't, I felt human. Asterisk, we met again a week later. I didn't suggest it, neither did he, we both just showed up. It became a quiet routine. Not often, not predictable. But enough. Asterisk, he started bringing a small notebook with him, wrote in it between sips. One day I asked what it was. He hesitated, then turned it toward me. Asterisk, a page with a single sentence. Some people wake you up by sitting still. Asterisk, I didn't know what to say to that, so I said nothing. He seemed to prefer it that way. Asterisk, at school, nothing changed. We were careful. He didn't linger after class anymore. I didn't look up when he walked in. But something passed between us, wordless, fragile, real, a recognition. The kind people pretend doesn't exist when it makes them uncomfortable. Asterisk. There was a part of me that started to soften. I laughed more in class. Let the students see a flicker of personality I usually kept buried. Some noticed. One girl said, "You're not as scary as I thought." I smiled. Dawson didn't look up, but I saw the corner of his mouth twitch. Asterisk, I told myself we were only friends. And maybe that was true. Maybe it wasn't, but either way, I was careful. Always careful. Asterisk, until the day he asked, "Did you ever tell anyone about you?" Asterisk, we were at the cafe again. Rain tapping at the windows. He didn't look up when he asked. Just kept turning the mug in his hands. Asterisk, I paused. The air thickened. Asterisk, no, I said. Not really. Asterisk, why not? Asterisk, I looked at him. He wasn't challenging me. Just curious. Maybe hurt on my behalf. Asterisk, because it was easier not to, I said. Because I wanted to keep what I had. And I knew I wouldn't if I did. Asterisk, he nodded slowly. I think I understand that. Asterisk, his voice was soft. Not sad, just quiet, like something had settled in him. Asterisk. I don't know who I am yet, he said, but I think when I'm around you, I stop pretending. Asterisk, that struck something deep. Not because it was romantic, but because it was honest. Asterisk, I didn't touch him. Didn't speak. Just sat there, my throat tight with something I couldn't name. Asterisk, eventually he stood. I should go. Curfew. I nodded. He turned back at the door and said, "Thank you for not asking me to explain it all." Then he left. I stayed there a long time after, watching the door, listening to the rain, wondering if I'd already let something begin that I wouldn't know how to end. Asterisk, because it was getting harder to pretend I wasn't waiting for him. Harder to convince myself that this connection, whatever it was, wouldn't cost us both something if anyone ever noticed. Asterisk. The shift came quietly, like a crack in glass that spreads before you realize it's there. One Monday morning, I walked into the teacher's lounge and felt it immediately, the hush that follows you in. The glances that pull away too quickly. I told myself I was imagining it. That was easier than admitting something had changed. Asterisk, by third period, it was undeniable. 2 students in the back of the room stifled laughter when I called roll. One of them whispered to the other, eyes flicking. Toward Dawson. He didn't react. He stared straight ahead, face unreadable. Asterisk, at lunch, I kept to myself as usual. But my phone buzzed with a message from a colleague. You should see what they're posting. I thought you should know? Asterisk, a quick search brought it up some anonymous account on a social platform students used more than they studied. No photos, no proof, just text. Crude, speculative, cruel, asterisk. Guess Mr. Caldwell likes more than poetry. Seen him with Dawson like 3 times now, alone, off campus. Weird, right? Asterisk, my stomach turned. There was nothing in it that violated any rule. Nothing I could be charged with, but that didn't matter. Not in a place like this? The implication alone was enough to taint everything, asterisk, that afternoon. Dawson didn't come to class, asterisk, the next day. He did, but he sat in the back row, eyes fixed on the desk. No glance in my direction. No pause after the bell, asterisk, he didn't come to the cafe that week or the next. I stopped going to, asterisk, then came the call from the principal's office. Conversation, she said, just protocol. But the tone in her voice was clipped, careful, asterisk. We've had concerns raised, she began, about the nature of your interaction with a particular student. Asterisk, I sat still, hands folded in my lap. I didn't deny knowing Dawson. I didn't try to defend the undefinable. I told her the truth. There had been no misconduct, no lines crossed, just conversations, just coffee, asterisk, her eyes didn't accuse. But they didn't trust either. It would be best, she said, if you made yourself less available. 2. Avoid further misunderstanding, asterisk, I nodded. I knew the dance, asterisk, after that, everything dulled. My classroom grew quieter. Students avoided eye contact. I heard the rumors. Some said I'd been suspended. Others whispered about secret letters, hidden relationships. None of it was true. But it didn't need to be. Asterisk, Dawson vanished again, 3 full days this time. I almost convinced myself he'd transferred, that his parents had found out and pulled him out of school altogether. Asterisk, then one evening, a knock came at my door. Asterisk, I opened it to find him standing in the rain, soaked to the bone, eyes wide and trembling. He looked like a child, not the composed boy who quoted Baldwin and asked questions I couldn't answer. Asterisk, I'm sorry, he said, voice cracking. I stepped aside and let him in. He didn't sit, just paced in small broken circles. I told my girlfriend about us. Not because there was anything to tell. I don't know why I said it, maybe to make her jealous. Or maybe because I wanted it to be something. I didn't speak. I thought maybe if I said it out loud, I'd understand what it was, what you meant to me, but all I did was ruin it. Asterisk, his eyes were red. He wiped his sleeve across his face. They think that we did things. We didn't, but they think we did. Asterisk, I looked at him carefully. Do you think we did? Asterisk, he shook his head. No, but I thought about it. I still do. Not like, he stopped, fumbling, not like a fantasy, more like a piece I could imagine. Asterisk, that was the moment I realized it was over. Not because of shame, not because of guilt, but because whatever we had, whatever passed between us, couldn't survive the world outside the walls we built. Asterisk, I went to the kitchen. Made tea, set 2 cups on the table. Asterisk, we didn't speak again that night. He sat in silence, staring into his hands. I didn't reach for him. I couldn't. Asterisk, when he finally stood to leave, I didn't walk him out. He paused at the door. I miss who I was when I was around you, he said. Then he left. Asterisk, and I sat there, alone with the weight of something we never named. Asterisk, spring arrived without warning. The dogwoods outside my window bloomed overnight, white petals clinging to branches like a last attempt at beauty before the heat came. I watched them sway in the breeze each morning before school, waiting for something I couldn't name to settle inside me. It never did. Asterisk, Dawson stopped showing up completely after that night. No explanation, no message. Just absence, clean and quiet. Asterisk, I didn't ask where he'd gone. I didn't have the right. Asterisk, the school year dragged toward its conclusion like a tired runner on a cracked track. I stopped hearing the rumors. They'd moved on as teenage storms do. But something in me had shifted permanently. I moved through the halls as if underwater, seeing everything but feeling little. Asterisk, one afternoon in May, The counselor left a folder in my box recommendation requests for graduating seniors. I flipped through them out of habit. Then I saw his name, Dawson Rowe. Attached was a college essay. I wasn't supposed to read it, but I did. The title was simple, The Man in the Gray Jacket. He never named me. He never had to. The words were soft but deliberate. He wrote about a teacher who listened differently, who didn't talk much but saw too much, who taught him to find silence not as punishment but as shelter. He said, "He showed me how to be still, and in that stillness I heard myself for the first time, asterisk, I read it twice. Then a third time, slower, asterisk, there was no anger in it, no accusation, only gratitude. And something like forgiveness. On the last day of school, I handed in my resignation. No one asked why. Some looked surprised. Others nodded like they'd been expecting it. Asterisk, I told them I wanted to travel. To write, maybe I did. Maybe I just couldn't walk those halls anymore, knowing how thin the glass had been. Asterisk, that summer, I cleared out my classroom. I boxed up books, posters, years of notes I'd written to no one in particular. I kept only one item, a folded sheet of paper tucked inside a copy of Giovanni's room. It was the note Dawson had written months ago. Page 43, made me think of our conversation. Asterisk, I didn't reread the passage. I didn't need to. Asterisk, by August, I'd developed a quiet routine. I walked every morning to the coffee shop we used to frequent, the same corner table, the same chipped mug. The barista didn't ask questions. Asterisk one morning, I found something waiting for me. Asterisk, a book, tattered, well-loved. Leaves of grass, inside, a note on old notebook paper, folded once. You were the first person who saw me. I hope you're still looking. Asterisk, no signature. Just that. Asterisk, I didn't cry. I smiled. A small private gesture, like something being placed gently back into my hands after I thought it was gone for good. Asterisk, he was gone now, wherever life had carried him. College, maybe. Somewhere new. Somewhere clean. But a part of him remained in the space we had shared, not as a ghost, but as a breath held between two people who once knew what it meant to truly be seen. Asterisk. There are things in this world we are taught not to name. Bonds that don't fit into neat definitions. People we are told to forget the moment they don't serve a role. But I remember him, not with shame, with grace. Asterisk, and sometimes, when I pass a young man with his head tilted toward the ground, walking alone, I look a little longer. Just in case. Asterisk, because I know now some stories don't end. They echo, quietly, clearly. Asterisk, and if you listen hard enough, you can still hear what never got said. Asterisk.